Be curious to hear about the relationship between a non-physical mind and the physical universe, about what its primary agents of action are, for example. Um, but to proceed from there, I will further be. I'm sure that there will be questions going on in tonight's debate about issues like intentionality, issues like the aboutness of thoughts, issues about moral decision making, about the hard problem of consciousness, and to all of these things, I do not plan to introduce any kind of hardcore materialism here. I don't want to say that there is no such thing as the mind. I do not follow the line of thought that, among others, Daniel Dennett has pursued with great aplomb in the last few years, saying that the mind is simply an illusion. I don't think that's an appropriate way to construe the mind or the things that it does in this world. But I will say that the supervenient relationship of the mind upon the brain is so strong as to be virtually indisputable. And if we come to questions about things that I see as not being terribly related, but as being interesting ancillary points to this dualism versus physicalism questions like how does the appearance of order arise in the universe? My position, which is perfectly available elsewhere online, is of course that order of the kind that Bob raised in his 5-minute opener does not exist in the universe. That actually is an illusion, and that we have no good reason to think that only that minded or disembodied minded forces could create those circumstances. And again, it is this issue of not simply indicating some intelligence elsewhere in the universe, but of indicating a disembodied, minded intelligence. This that I think is the most incoherent doctrine of dualism is the disembodied aspect of that. So that will certainly be, hopefully, a fruitful line of questioning. But I think that I will pass my remaining 20 seconds back to Bob so that we can get started with the Q&A.
Okay, good. Okay, the time is 16 minutes, so it'll go on until 31 minutes. Now, you've distanced yourself from Daniel Dennett's position.
Only on that one point, if I may say.
Okay, only on that one point. What I think you're saying, I didn't really hear a real strict statement of physicalism, but what I think you're saying is that the mind arises like 10 billion years after the Big Bang. Or if we just want to take it to Earth, let's say that Earth is 4 billion years old. You would assert that the mind force 4.7 billion years ago did not exist. Is that true?
Could you clarify the phrase mind force for me?
Okay, well, the ability to move particles where one wants.
Sure. I mean, if you mean something like volitional agents, then I would say those are actually an incredibly recent evolutionary development, perhaps less than a few 100,000 years old. But I definitely say that we could agree that there does not appear to have been any intelligent life on Earth prior to recent mammalian,
Okay.
recent animal history.
All right, good. So now we have a debate because what you're saying is that material can give rise to the mind force.
Yes, absolutely. That definitely is a very clear statement of my position.
Okay, now why do you think it is the case that that gravity clearly material didn't cause gravity to exist? Correct.
I'm not sure about that. I do not know the origins of gravity or why it happens. I know that there are a number of hypotheses being tested at CERN right now, such as the Higgs boson. But as for the origins of gravity, I do not know anything about them. But I will say that I do not believe that gravity is an intelligent thing. No.
Right. Well, I've mostly seen a lot of cosmologists. They actually pinpoint the origin of gravity to something like 10 to the negative 17 seconds after the Big Bang.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll take your word for that. I'm not familiar with that literature.
Okay. Well, I wanna try to prove that that material it's by in principle it cannot give rise to this mind force.
Sure.
Um, Now you've accused me of being able to give an incoherent account of how the mind interacts with matter, but you're kind of doing the same thing. You're suggesting that matter causes mind.
I am.
So how would you give a coherent account of that?
So if you're looking for, if by an account you might mean an example, say, I would say something like, just in our day-by-day experiences, minds seem to be physical in a number of ways. Whenever I encounter a mind, it appears to be localized in the brain of some other person or in some brain mimicking computer system. I always seem to be able to find a location and place of time for where a mind appears to be generally localized. Furthermore, my interactions with that mind always seem to take place by physical means. To my knowledge, I've never communicated by telepathy, but when I communicate with somebody orally, for example, I use my vocal cords to rarefy and expand the air between us, such that their eardrums or whatever their cochlear equipment is, they detect what I'm saying, their brain interprets it, and that seems to be the only means that I ever have of interacting with brains somehow physically. Furthermore, those brains seem to not be dominant over physical circumstances, but to be in many ways subordinate to them. For example, that minds do not seem to be able to volunteer for the kinds of pain that they experience. Minds seem to be radically embodied, and for more discussion on that, see footnote 20 in my written discussion. Minds seem to be radically dependent upon physical circumstances, from everything from the time of
Okay,
day, how much sleep you've had.
Can I interrupt you?
That basically physical circumstances have a radically deterministic effect on minds.
Okay, I don't think you're answering the question. What you just answered or what you just proved is that that minds exist right now, and that the mind and the physical can interact right now. What I want to know is, it seems like I think you would believe that matter has to be arranged in a certain way in order for mind to even exist.
Correct.
Okay, well, if this were the case, that matter has to. Now, would you say that matter has to be arranged in a very, very precise way or in a very simple way?
I would say a very specific way.
Okay, all right, good. Now, if you take that position, we're still stuck with the same problem of how matter gets arranged in that very specific and precise way in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm arguing is that law and chance, which are the only, I want to ask you, let me just ask you a question. Before the mind force existed, law and chance were the only two things that can cause particles to move, correct?
Very broadly construed, yes.
Okay. Now, I hope you understood what I was talking about when I said that law cannot plan. Do you accept that thesis?
Yeah, so just so everyone in the audience is aware, Bob kindly sent me actually a document that had some write-up of his arguments for my pre-digestion. And so following along here saying that laws themselves cannot plan, yes, I would agree, laws cannot plan.
And you agree that chance cannot plan?
Chance by itself cannot plan, no. I think that planning and intentionality are functions of minds.
Okay. So we're still stuck with the problem of how order arises. For instance, if I say to you how order arises, you would say, well, the mind does it. But then I ask you, well, where the mind comes from.
Oh, okay. So you're asking for the not the origins of, say, your mind or my mind, but the origins of minds in general.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I think that at least with Earth, we have a fairly detailed evolutionary history of where minds came from. See footnote 3. But of course, you're not looking for a historical analysis here. Your question, if I understand you correctly, is about how do these seemingly inert things like laws and chance give rise to minds, correct?
Yes.
So I would say, or what I see as being pretty clear is that minds are emergent properties of matter, such that without adding any additional matter to a certain select pool of matter, you can arrange it in a way that you get a mind.
Well, hold on. Who's you? Who's you? When you say you can arrange it so that you get a mind.
Oh, that's not. I mean, say that you're God building a universe, or just any arrangement of the universe. Or is your question then not about the appearance of complexity in the universe, or is your question about the origin of the universe?
Well, right now we're just worried about the origin of. We're not talking about the origin of Big Bang. We're just talking about like